Jessica.
I'm really sad
Why? What's wrong?
because my mom is so mean.
Mean? I've met your mom. She's not mean.
Yes, she is. Today, she said I couldn't have any ice cream for dinner. Mm.
Well, I'm sorry. I mean, my mom's pretty cool.
Well, that's your mom. My mom is so mean. She makes me so upset sometimes.
Well, I think maybe you're missing out all the cool things she does too. Like my mom, she doesn't always let me have ice cream either, but she does a lot of other really cool things.
Like what?
Well, she packs my lunches for school, which
Mm-hmm.
is cool. And she makes dinner, which is cool. Because when
Yeah.
dad makes it, well, he burns it. And when I'm sick, my mom tucks me in bed and lets me watch TV. But not a lot, just a little bit.
That makes sense.
Yeah, she's pretty cool. And I think you've told me your mom does those things too.
You know, you're right. When I'm sick, mom does make food for me, and she listens to me when I have to talk about boys. And I know,
Ew!
I know. But my mom is kind of cool, and everything you just said about your mom is the same about my mom too.
Yeah, so I don't think your mom's mean.
Cindy, I gotta go.
What? Where are you going?
I gotta go talk to my mom. I need to apologize.
That's probably a good idea. I'm gonna go find my mom and give her a hug. Bye!
Okay, bye.
Mom!
I'll see you later. Bye.
Good morning, and we're so excited that you are joining us this morning on this special Mother's Day Sabbath. And I know that for this weekend, for many, it is a joy to celebrate our mothers. For others, there can be a sadness if they don't have children, but we just want you to know that for this church, we recognize all women on Mother's Day because whether you have given birth to a child or whether you have not, you have a mothering spirit. We know many young teenagers who take care of their siblings, or I have a best friend who has taken 3 children into her home and loved them from childhood to adulthood, and she is their mother. And so there's many ways to have that spirit, and we want to celebrate that spirit. And as we begin today, I'm going to ask Ivana to start with a word of prayer.
Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this beautiful day and for this opportunity to be together. I just want to invite you in your presence to join us as we spend this time together. I invite you to join all those that are watching and joining us online. And I am thankful for your love, and I pray that this morning is an encouragement and a blessing to all those who are joining us. Thank you in advance for all that you are going to do. We love you. Amen. Amen.
As we begin our service this morning, we have a special treat for you, a little video that Jesse has put together. Some moms, we miss seeing each other, so this is kind of a fun way to hear from some of our moms in our church family, some funny moments and some poignant moments as being a mom. So enjoy.
Happy Mother's Day weekend. My embarrassing funny moment was we had the family on the boat up in Chelan. The kids were going, oh, it's too cold to go swimming. And of course they had friends with them. And so I said, oh, you guys are just a bunch of wimps. And so I jumped in and I lost my breath. It was so cold. And of course they were all laughing hysterically when they saw my face come out of the water. So that one never gets old. The kids love telling that story.
Something that's always been funny to us is how excited they get after bath time and run around crazy. My 2-year-old likes to scream, naked boy, naked boy, naked boy. It was a little awkward though when we went to the YMCA, and I had him in the showers there with me afterward, and he started screaming, "Naked mommy, naked mommy." And other people that he saw who were also naked, he was pointing them out and very adamantly screaming that. So that was fun.
Every mom knows newborn poop. Like, it's like nothing else. And so, I was up changing Winston's pants, and it was everywhere. And so Ken got up to help me, and he scared the dog, and the dog pooped everywhere. And all I could think is seriously, like, this really happens?
Melody had dumped out a huge pile of Lincoln logs on the floor right before bedtime. And I was like, Melody, you gotta clean that up, otherwise you're gonna run out of time for a story. And so she gets this really cool idea. She goes and gets her piggy bank, and she says, Mom, I want to pay Leona to pick up my toys for me. I was like, okay, Leona's 3, so you can try to explain it to her, and gave her a piggy bank. And then I went and found them later, and she was counting pennies into Leona's hand, and Leona was like all excited. I explained to Leona, you're gonna clean up for exchange for the money. She's nodding. And so I did some laundry, and I went back and checked on them, and then I walked in, and Melody was reading a book, enjoying her free time, and Lena was trying to pick up the logs and just kind of playing and ignoring it. And I said, well, it's like 5 minutes till bedtime, so sorry. And I walked off, and then I heard Melody run up the stairs. Thump, 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 thump. She goes, Mommy, you get that piggy bank out? I'm gonna get my money back from Leona. She didn't do her job. So Leona was hired for her first job at the age of 3 and fired from that very same job in the same day.
All mothers know that there is a quiet time frame where if you don't hear your children for a certain amount of time, there's something that goes off in your brain that says to go check on them. This was a Sabbath afternoon. We were downstairs with our company, and that little alarm went off in my head. My sons were probably 4 and 7 years old. Went upstairs to check on them, opened up the door. In my horror, I discovered that my oldest son was peeing in the light socket, and there were sparks flying out of the light socket into the room. It's a wonder he did not electrocute himself.
When you talk about humbled, I'm humbled every day. And children don't come out grateful. That was one of the first things that I discovered. And I was also one of those children who didn't come out grateful. But let me tell you, after having my own children, I became a very humble person. And I'm truly grateful to my mom, who is still momming me, and I'm almost 50 years old.
And then I guess a quick humbling story is I was racing around one morning getting the kids ready to go to school, get out the door, and I get in the car. We have a van, so I'm looking in the rear view mirrors. There's nothing. I back up into Jennifer's best friend's car, who had come to pick her up without me knowing. Yeah.
For some reason, as a young mother, I thought Mother's Day was a free pass to be selfish. After all, it was one day of the year where I was allowed to be selfish. I remember about 10 years ago, it was a beautiful Mother's Day. We went to Mud Mountain Dam, and we were having a good day, and I don't know what came over me, probably because I was still postpartum, hormonal, but I got in this huge fight with Rich, and it just ruined my entire day. I was being totally selfish and unreasonable. If I had just asked Rich for a little bit of me time, he would have gladly given it to me. Being a mom is a 24/7 job, and we are called to give and care for our children, even on Mother's Day.
So when I think of mothering, humbling is definitely a good word, because it is a huge responsibility, right, to raise a human being that works, that's a contributing member of society, that's not going to be a pain to be around. I also am still growing, and I also am still learning, and so I can trust in God to help me be a parent to my kids as they begin to know who God is and trust in God themselves. What I love is when I hear my son say, I love you. He just started saying that, but he says it in like this, growly dinosaur voice. I love you. And we kind of have this I love you fight. I love you, and he loves it. Or when my daughter and I just have a laugh attack and she giggles and laughs for no reason, and then we're both laughing. And it's just amazing. Like these are human beings that didn't exist, and now they do. Here I am with the honor and sometimes the crazy pressure of I'm their mom.
I didn't have a lot of baby experience. I had never changed a diaper, and so here I was after giving birth, and I have this baby all of a sudden, and I just feel completely overwhelmed. I had planned, I had prepared, I had everything I needed, and all of a sudden I was like, I don't know if I can do this. What have I gotten myself into? I don't know how to keep a baby alive. Like, what do I do? And I just started crying. I was overwhelmed, and Jesse and I prayed together and asked for God's peace, and he comforted me and told me I was gonna do fine. And we ended up staying up at night and just like holding Melody, baby Melody, right here in our legs, and just staring at her and just being in awe of the gift of life. And so far so good. Still winging it, but God's getting us all through it.
I had just fed my baby. I had changed her diaper. And I was just holding her and rocking her. And I was just overcome with this sense of love. And I just could not believe how much I loved this little baby. She had done nothing, like absolutely nothing to deserve my love. And I had done nothing to be able to have that much love. The thought that God, the Father, loves us that much and even that much more just blew my mind.
Harrison had had a rough day. There have been a lot of meltdowns. And little Hudson here had been kind of fussy all day, and I was kind of at the end of my rope, and I was laying Harrison down to go to sleep and trying to hold Hudson at the same time, and you know, that balancing act is hard. And I honestly just didn't want to do any more. We always pray with Harrison. We always have a story and prayer with Harrison to get him to go to sleep. And it was late. It was way past his bedtime because he had refused to go to bed. And that was pushing my patience as well. So I just turned the lights off, said goodnight, gave him a kiss, and was going to walk out the door. And I hear this little voice saying, "Mommy, pray, Jesus." And I realized I need to make an effort, even though I'm tired. It's more important to spend that time with your child, with Jesus Christ as the center.
My humbling story is a little more serious. My oldest ended up being a drug addict. He was kicked out of the academy his senior year and proceeded to spend the next 10 years in a pretty bad way. Homeless a lot of that time. We'd not heard from him for weeks, and we got a knock on the front door, and there was my oldest boy, Garrett, and he was very high on what we don't know. He couldn't even tell me what he had taken. I was worried that if I took him to the emergency room because of the warrants out for his arrest, that they would take him to jail. So I put on my nurse's brain and did some checks on him physically, put him upstairs in the bonus room on a mattress, and brought the rocking chair in and sat there and watched him all night long to make sure that he was okay. I don't typically pray on my knees, but I felt compelled to. So I went in my room. I could still see the bonus room from where I was. I knelt next to my bed, and I pleaded with God to save his life. I pleaded with God to get him out of his addiction. That was the first and only time in my life that I actually felt the hand of God on me physically. I felt his hand on my shoulder, and I heard a voice say, "He's my son too." Now, I've never heard the voice again since then, and I don't expect to. I didn't expect it that night. But God knew that I needed to know that we were in this together. And I'm happy to report that he's almost 2 years clean and sober. miracles do happen. Not always in our time frame. In fact, not often in our time frame. But God knows. He knows what, He knows when, and He loves our children more than we do, which is beyond what we can comprehend. So for those of you moms that are struggling right now, take heart. We're all in this together. It's very humbling, and God will take us through it. He'll take us through the fire. He'll be with us the whole way, and He's won the victory. So we just need to trust Him. Keep trusting Him. Happy Mother's Day. God bless you.
That you don't have.
It's good to hear from other mothers. We miss seeing each other, so it's very fun. And thank you, moms, for keeping it real. This morning, that's what we plan to do, is to have some real talk with some other moms. And I'm joined this morning by Keti, Ulia, and Ivana, Ogando. And we kind of represent different stages of mothering, and we just want to have a little good conversation this morning. And just so we can get better acquainted with each other and understand our families a little bit, what kind of things do you guys enjoy doing together? Maybe even has it changed since this time you've been having to stay home?
Definitely. For myself and my family, when we were in Australia, we used to love going on road trips to visit families that, we had that were 11 hours away. And for us, that was a moment of just getting away from everyone and just having just us, and there was nowhere for us to run or walk away to.
You're stuck in the car together.
We're stuck together in a car. And that was a bonding time for us, especially with how we were set up last year, being so busy with, just with ministry, Rome, having to travel state to do what he had to do. So that was something fun that we've been doing.
Before we go on, I probably should introduce a little more. You are Keti, but for those that don't know, I'm just making an assumption. You just came here?
Just moved here.
Was it January or February? February.
I think it was the beginning of February. It was meant to be January, but we got here beginning of February, just in time for lockdown.
Glad you made it.
Thank you.
Just in the nick of time. And Keti, you're married to Pastor Rome, who's just joined us on staff here, and so we're excited about that.
And we're excited too.
Yeah. Ivana, what do you guys do together?
Our priority as a family is to always just be together, and we have done that since day one. So we roll as one unit.
That's so cool.
And so we try to do everything together, which is probably not always the best, but it is for us. It works out really well. One thing that we especially love, I know everybody talks about how, the rain in Washington, don't let it get you down. But for us, whenever we see rain, we know that it's snowing up in the mountain.
Oh, wow.
And so that's fresh powder, and we love to snowboard. So this last 2 seasons, Petra's actually been able to go with us. We didn't have to leave her behind, and so that's just been exciting, embracing where we are together. Now, since COVID has happened, I think the biggest thing, I think we definitely played board games before, and it's actually some close friends of ours, the Hasenhauers, they introduced us to a bunch of new games, and which was a blessing, because now during COVID, that's all we do.
Yeah.
And it's just so fun to see different personalities come out, or just watch the kids, learn new tricks, and they're getting better than us. Don't tell them. But it's just been fun to spend time together. We also like to read. We make time to read together or read on our own. Just being together is just important. Yeah, and we just enjoy it. So it's a blessing.
Huge.
For our family, my kids are older, so it has changed, as the seasons have changed. I think we've always enjoyed camping and getting outside together and road trips. We're a good 30 hours from our family in Kansas, and so we've had some great road trips back and forth. And even I remember asking the kids, hey, would you guys rather fly or drive 3 days there? And because we would stop and go swimming and have fun and order pizza in and things we don't normally do, they would say, hey, let's drive. So it was more fun. But things have changed since they got a little older. We've always done, we call them Sabbath afternoon adventures. My youngest has always gone, well, more recently, with dragging him, like, really, do we have to go? But I think it's been a good family time to do that too. Which leads me, some of these things that we do, and may do accidentally at first. I remember one March, it was spring break, so all the kids were home, kind of like what it is for you guys. And it happened to be St. Patrick's Day during spring break. And the kids were, getting restless and whatever. And so I'm like, okay, it's St. Patrick's Day. Let's make every food we eat today is green. So we had green-covered potatoes, green-colored gravy,
goodness.
which is really weird. Don't do that one.
Sounds amazing.
Green peas or broccoli, and they would even color the ice cream or whatever green. So we'd have a whole meal of green.
Wow.
And we just did it one time. And I remember the next year came around, and the kids are like, "It's St. Patrick's Day. What are we going to make that's green?" And I'm like, they're like, "That's a tradition." And I'm like, "We did it once," but they're like, "Okay, it's a new tradition."
Tradition.
So what traditions have you guys done? And I think the importance of tradition is that it creates identity with your family. What traditions have you created with your kids that help them know, hey, this is our family?
This is ours. I think with us, a tradition, and this could be just something that's just normal in people's households, but for us, it's sitting down at dinner time as a family with all our seats, taken and just eating together, and that's a tradition that I didn't grow up with because I've got siblings and we're all different ages and we're all at different stages in our lives, so we would hardly ever be on the table together. So just to have that with my kids now, with Rome on the table as well with us, I mean, that's, I'm so grateful and thankful for that, just that alone.
It's important.
Growing up, my family was very busy. We all worked in order to provide, and so so Saturdays was the only Sabbath meal that we could all stop and be together, and so it was the same thing for me growing up. Sabbath meal was a very important one during the week. You didn't miss that one because it was a chance to be together. But also Vespers, Friday evening and Saturday evening, were like non-negotiable. And I giggle because I remember, especially in high school, it would be so embarrassing, at least I thought it was embarrassing, because it didn't matter who was over, we were having Vespers. And Vespers included like the music and reading from the Bible and reading from some other book, and I would be so like, we just want to, just get it over with so we can go and, and that sounds awful to say, but, at the time, that's how I was feeling. But later on in college, I would have friends that would come up and be like, hey, do you still have Vespers at your family? Like, are you guys still doing that? Because I remember, and I just love that, and, I wish my family did. And I came to realize that it was a blessing to them. It wasn't, what I found embarrassing ended up being a blessing, and obviously since then it's grown to be dear to my heart. And with our crazy schedules, Angel and I, we try real hard Fridays and Saturdays to do that with the kids, and it doesn't always happen, and I think that's okay too, because the effort there is what's important to the children. At least I feel that
and
way.
I think it's important that sometimes the traditions we come from our families, and sometimes they're like, okay, I didn't have that as a child, so this is what I want.
Right.
What are there new traditions that you have with your kids?
New traditions.
Like, I know that you do, and maybe you mentioned it before with the games. Talk about your game night.
Game nights, well, of course you have to have a snack. But I think it depends on the game that you're playing.
Do you have it every week? How often do you do game night?
At least once a week, but I mean, honestly, it's turned into like 3 to 4 times.
It's something
like
to
we
do.
would rather play games together because it's something active and you're interactive versus like watching something together. But that being said, we do like sports. We play sports, we watch sports, we like watching TV too. I'm not trying to say we don't.
I think I remember watching a story of yours on Facebook where you and Pastor Angel and your 2 kids were out skateboarding, and I thought, whoa, this is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I could ever get Rome on a skateboard, or myself on a skateboard. But just seeing that was great. It's just something different different from what I know anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I thought it was fun because I had seen it also on Facebook when you post the game night, and I'm like, that is so cool.
Yeah.
And we used to do that more with the kids. I think for us, a tradition has always been Friday night has been a special time. And we have a special meal that they have every single Friday night, but during the summer you get one meal, and during the winter you get a different meal. But we have a consistent Friday night meal. And
That simplifies things.
I
That's
look
a great
forward.
idea.
Well, and they can't eat it without thinking. I read it somewhere. They can't eat that food without thinking about
the memories.
memories of that
Wow,
night.
yeah, that's so true.
So during the summer, the thing I love the most is that on a Friday night, that gets the grill out. We do our burgers, and he grills the corn on the cob and watermelon, and we just hang out on the back porch and we eat together. And then they go down, and one of the boys makes a fire, and we roast marshmallows, and we just sit around until it gets dark, looking at the stars, talking. And to me, that's one of my favorite family memories. And what's cool is that it has translated to them being adults. It's something that we still do.
Has longevity.
Yeah. And we've added on Sabbath mornings. We do crepes. Doug handed me on a plate to go because I didn't have time this morning. So he's like, you can't have a Sabbath without your crepe.
That's
So,
awesome.
I ate my crepe on the
Breakfast
go.
to go. That's neat.
So I think traditions are important because it gives us and gives families identity.
Yeah.
And I think it also gives something, at least it gives the kids something to look forward to or a reminder. I know one thing we do Friday nights, traditionally in Croatia, in our family, we have a Friday evening blessing and then a Sabbath blessing. And in between, like Friday evening, I have found a candle holder that has 4 candles. And so we each light one to symbolize the Holy
nice.
Spirit and God joining us over the weekend. And then we pray,
That's
and then we do the
a huge
blessing.
tradition, right?
Yeah. I missed that one almost.
Well, because it reminded me, because it doesn't matter if it's like midnight and we've forgotten about it. Petra's like, hey, we haven't done the candles, and so they look forward to it.
It makes Sabbath
that's
special.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So we kind of represent different ages of parenting. Have you been given advice or things that you have figured out, by hook or by crook, going through it for each stage? Ivana, yours are young. You're past the baby stage, but you still have young ones. And Keti, you have teenagers.
Spectrum.
I have. Yeah.
Oh goodness.
But she's hitting the young adult, the youth.
Yeah.
And I've got the young adult. So tell us, Ivana, what have you learned, or what have people given you advice that you're like, oh wow, that really helped me?
I think the first thing that pops into my head is actually the blessing it was when I moved to Nashville after I first got married to Angel. I walked into a community that he had already established because he had been there before me. And there were people there that became my friends who were also in stages ahead of me. And to me, that was such a blessing because they could speak into my life then as a new mother, as a new wife. I wasn't a new mom yet. First, I was a wife. And so just speaking into me then and giving me advice and just, laughing along with us or whatever. But then as we did start our family, then they could they helped and give me advice even just from birth. There were so many questions I never had to ask because the answers were already given. And the advice was there. And I had, it was important to me because Angel and I were there without immediate family. My family was all in Michigan, and his family was all in Florida. We were kind of in the middle, and that was fine. I think that was important for us to be able to start our chapter on our own. But it can be hard, there's technology, but it isn't the same. And just having someone there who is literally there and can help and be a comfort or advice or mentor. I like my friend Jennifer Taylor. I am forever grateful to, because she's literally there with me all the time. And when Petra was born, she watched Jonah overnight, When Jonah was born, they were there at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
I was too tired to even hold my baby, and they were doing that for me.
Yeah.
And so
I think in today's age when we rarely are around our families, it is so important to surround ourselves with other people
Community.
who can be that, come into that role. And I noticed that when we moved here too, is that all of a sudden it was it really matters that there are other people around you that are close. Family doesn't stop,
No.
but you need someone close.
Yes.
Okay, so for yours, coming down into teenagers or whatever?
Ooh,
Have you been given any advice that you?
Teenagers. I think, well, when I had Antonio, our oldest, Charlie, the oldest of the 5 here anyway, I had my mum with me. And she is just like any other Polynesian mum, she's hands-on. But, you know, the things that she taught me is just priceless stuff. And it's things that you wouldn't, like, for instance, this is a funny story, but when he was only a few weeks old, he had to go in to get another injection, the immunisation. I forgot what it was for, but I went straight back into work after having him, and my mother would look after him while I was at work. And I left work early, and I said to my mum, can you just get him ready, because we've got to go down to the Plunkett nurse so that he can get his shots. And my mum got him ready. We got to the nurse's room, and lo and behold, the nurse takes off his jumpsuit, and his he's going to hate me saying this, but his feet were taped together, his toes. And then I remember there was like this pause in the room, and the nurse looked at me like, you know, why has he got tape on his feet? She was just curious. Yeah. And I was curious too, because I had no idea. My mum was waiting outside, and I remember just sitting there going, well, you know, she just totally avoided it.
With his grandmother?
Yeah, totally avoided it. When we got in the car, I said, Mum, why did you tape his feet for? I looked crazy. You know, and she you know, said to me, well, I noticed that, you know, his feet were kind of spread out, so I just wanted to, his toes were spread out, so I just wanted to kind of keep them in. And
so, who knew you needed to?
I know,
but there you go.
My mum was awesome, and she taught me a lot that you know, you can't get out of a book. And
so true.
Yeah, and then being in ministry and being able to go into different churches, there's always someone there that you can, you know, draw from, that you can, you know, just get advice from and take what you need and what, just to listen to. And I've had amazing ladies that have come through and have just, you know, given me amazing advice when my kids went into the teenage stage. I wasn't ready for it. Mm-hmm. You know, it was a whole shock to me. It was almost to the point where I was like, it was an overnight thing, and it was, what is this? I don't want this anymore. What is this? Go back to being little. I don't want this anymore. But, you know, you adjust as a mum, and I think, you just adjust as a mum and
I think it's important to recognize that there are different stages, and you have to adjust with them. I remember when we first moved here, we went out to eat with another pastor's family, and they had adult children, and we had taken our little ones with us, and my youngest was 3, and by then he was tired and he was running around the restaurant, and I looked at her and I said, it must be nice to have adult children who just sit and eat. And she's like, she just looked at me and she was like, you have no idea what you're talking about. And she said that, and I'm like, really? And she said, when they're little, you can tell them what to do, and they, you know, they're with you. When they're older, you still have ideas of what they should do, but you can't tell them. They have to do it on their own, and you just have to watch them and support them and be there. And it just gave me a window into
what was coming.
What was coming. At first I'm thinking, you just forgot what it was like. But now I realize that the decisions that they make when they're adults are so big that your role changes, not to telling them what to do, but supporting them and loving them and being there with, regardless of what happens, and praying a lot. Because I
think that's important for every single stage.
It is.
Praying a lot.
To pray. I mean, sometimes it's all you
it's the
have
only
to
we can
lean
do
on.
it. Yes, there's just no
what
other
can you
way.
do? Yeah.
You touched base on a little bit about some of the things that your mom taught you. Is there anything else that, whether it's a mom or another mother, or could be a father figure too, has taught you that you value? I know for me it was my dad was a pastor, and he traveled a lot, an evangelist and with education, and he traveled and he was gone a lot. And my mom always, like on Sabbath or whatever, she would take us out to the park. We would go out and do things. It was never, wait till your dad gets back, then we'll do something fun or whatever. She always, and she never once said, your dad's gone all the time. I didn't even realize it until I got married and I had children, and my husband had to be gone like in an evening doing a Bible study or something, and I was alone. I'm thinking, I want to complain, but my mom taught me that it's not a complaint. It's to look at the blessing of when they are there and not to make them feel bad about when they're not there. And so I realized how hard that is to do when I had to do it. But kids, okay, let's go out, let's have fun, let's do something, let's not wait. And also when they're there, let's enjoy and have all the fun together. So
Yeah,
not
that's so
complaining, I
important.
guess, is what my mom taught me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything that you have particular or?
I think with my mother-in-law, and can I just say happy birthday to my mother,
of
Rome's
course.
mum.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
She's an amazing role model in my life. She has so much patience, and that's a huge thing. That's something that I try to be able to show my kids as well, because let's face it, as mothers, there are times where you're tested and you're tired, and and it's just a non-stop, one thing after another. And one thing that I can take away from Rome's mum is that she has the amount of patience she has is just amazing. The things that she's gone through with her, with Rome, and him growing up, and just the way that she constantly just prayed over him. I mean, that's something that I choose to take from her, and to put on my children as well. And hopefully that's something that they can take from from me and put on their children, when that time comes. So
It's beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah, I would say my mom, of course, all moms have taught us a lot. And one thing is, she always made it look so easy, because now that I'm there and I remember the things that was done for me, I'm like, how did they do it? How did they do it? My family came from a country that doesn't even exist anymore with 2 suitcases. We were a family of 5, and we came with only 2 suitcases. And so from their experience, they taught me about hard work and sacrifice. If I had to pick one word to describe both of my parents, it's givers. I mean, they give and give, and they've always put us first, ahead of us. And anybody, truly, they love people and they give. And so, and I was always taught to, if I needed something or wanted something, then I could do it for myself, not to rely on others. God blessed me with talents. He blessed me with hands and feet, and so there's no reason to ask someone to do something that I could do for myself, that I didn't need anybody, that I could be independent in God, and to lean on God, of course. But sacrifice, family. I also have 2 sisters who have always been my best friends. It's really awesome, because they're just built-in best friends. I never had the girlfriend,
nice.
Growing up.
Yeah.
I do now, and it's such a blessing. And of course, I still lean on my sisters, but they helped me with becoming confident. And I think my mom always pushed me also to be better. She could see, kept setting that bar higher and higher so that I wouldn't settle. I could go on and on. She's my hero. I love my mom.
So some of the things we've been talking about aren't just specifically for moms. They are, for either
family.
Just family. Yeah, family traditions and that kind of thing. Let's take just a minute and let's acknowledge and think about the guys, the men in our lives, our husbands and our fathers and our other good friends and brothers and people who have influenced and been a part of our families. What's your takeaway from them, or what value have they brought that you couldn't bring yourself to your family?
That I couldn't bring myself to the family. I think with Rome, his presence when he's with us, we just get that feeling of security. And I'm not talking about financial security. I'm talking about just knowing that everything's going to be okay, and just not having to worry. And when he puts that on the table, it's just the best feeling. It's an awesome feeling to feel. And I remember having the same feeling with my own father, just knowing, you know, when I'm going through something that's, even if I don't open up and tell him what I'm going through, I know that it will be, you know, it will be all right because I know my father has always got my back, you know, and that's the same feeling that I have with Rome. We've got this connection, and he's got it with the kids as well, that, you know, we call ourselves the Ulia unit, and we're just loyal to each other, you know, and to the
That's
one,
so
you know, and to
important.
everyone out there, you know,
Yes.
that we love as well. But that, you know, that bond that he's created as the head of our family is just, it's priceless, you know, and I yeah, that's one thing that I find amazing.
That's good. I think it's important to state that, like you had said, in the need for both parents. I know that isn't, or just the need for guidance and leadership from both sides. I remember specifically us one time when Jonah was little, and at that time we only had one car, and so I literally stayed home with him all the time. And one day we were playing a game, and I had played with him and it was fine. And then when Angel did come home from work, he played the exact same game with him. But it was completely different, in a completely different way. And it was, Jonah was like getting something, I realized, that like he couldn't get from me. And if I'm being truthful, earlier in the day when I had been with him and in that time, I was like, you know, I could do this. Like if something were to happen and I had to be a single parent, I could do this. I'll be fine. But when I witnessed that, when Angel came home and did the exact same thing, but it was so different, I realized, well, yeah, I could do it, but Jonah needed both. He needs to see both. He needed to be fed from both, you know, into his life. And so it was a humbling moment for me. But I think it's also important that I also need Angel in my own life. And I think it's important for our kids to be able to see a healthy representation of a unit, you know, in that we're not perfect. Angel and I are not perfect, but then they can see that even if we've had a disagreement, that we apologize to each other, or we apologize to them when we are wrong. But they can also see someone who puts someone else above them, you know. That's, for me, in marriage, that's what I always think, you know, like we're together as one, but his needs come before my own, because, or whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. I'm rambling, guys.
Oh, no, I think that because yes, our children have their father with them, and that's a blessing, and not everyone has that. And even in my own extended family, you know, there's been uncles that have to step in and fill that role, or grandfathers who step in and fill that role. That there is
friends.
a
male
friends.
Yeah.
There's a role that the man plays.
Yes.
And women, they try their best, but there's just another whole dynamic there.
It's
For
just
my
a
own
different
kids,
perspective.
Yeah, exactly. For my own kids, what my husband can teach them about their finances, they wouldn't get from me. You know, so that's just one thing. But there's the whole different view on life that another person brings. That none of us are an island. We need other people.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
One more thing, sorry, was I would like to say is that communication is key.
Yeah.
Because another example is, I remember, I mean, even just in marriage, but also with my children, sometimes when I'm cleaning up, I'll put things on the stairs for them to take up, and it could be like a whole week, and they'll just keep walking by it, and inside I'm like, don't you see it? Just like pick it up and take it, right? But then I realized they can't read my mind.
And that's
and if I just say it, then they'll do it, or, you know, or at least it'll be then in their mind. And so I think that's key for both our children and our spouses, is just communication.
This morning. Yes. I was telling Ivana this morning that I got frustrated at Rome for something that he didn't even know existed, or, you know, and it was just something that I was kind of harboring myself, because I needed an outlet to kind of put my panic attack on. And, you know, and then it was a reality shock to me when I hopped in the car to come, and I thought, he has no idea.
Why?
Yeah.
I bullied him. So, you know, I fully get that. 100%.
That's
communication
important.
is key.
So, and not always easy.
No, it's not.
So as we draw to a close here, and you think about, I'm going to give you a choice on whether, we're inspired by our own mothers, but that's been for generations that we can look back, and there may be a woman in the Bible that has inspired you, or what has parenting taught you about God that you wouldn't have seen otherwise. So either one of those, what speaks to you as you give your final thoughts?
For Angel and I, we have always said that John and Petra came into our lives. They didn't become our life. And that being said, we've also said that they're not ours. They were entrusted to us from God. And so I think the mother in the Bible that I would identify with or reminds me of that story is Hannah, Samuel's mom, because she prayed and longed for him forever. And then when she was given that gift, she didn't hold on to it. She gave him back. And so that's something that I lean and pray on all the time is I don't know why he's chosen me to have the two blessings that we do have, and I fall short daily, and I cannot do it. I just can't. I'm almost worried I'm going to ruin them, you know? And so beautiful. I just pray and pray and pray, because I'm like, what is it that I need, or you want me to help and lead and guide in that? And then I think the other part of the question would be with Angel, I learned to love him. I learned to let him into my life. But from the moment that Jonah was born and Petra was born, it's instantaneous. I love them. Yeah. And there's nothing in this whole world that would ever change that.
Different kind of love, isn't it?
I just didn't understand that until I had my children. Yeah. You know, I try to grasp that understanding. And I do love others as well, but it is a different, unique love, and that's how I finally understood the depth of love. I mean, I'm sure that's that times infinity for me, and it's so humbling when you think about it like that. Yeah. That God loves me that much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What about you, Keti?
Oh, there's a few ladies that I in the Bible that I just love. I love the character of Elizabeth. I know that she's not, there's not a lot of her story in the Bible, but when you look at what she had placed on her and what she had to prepare with her son, I mean, we're talking about a mother who was wise in age. She was barren, and then to be carrying a child that is purposely made to prepare the way for the Messiah, and to ready the people for the coming of the Messiah. Just her as a mum, I'm getting anxiety just thinking about that because that's huge. No pressure, Elizabeth. this is it. But just. For me, that speaks volume because you read what John the Baptist does, and you're like, he lived out that purpose. How amazing is Elizabeth to be able to
that
do
foundation.
that. Yeah, and I'm the more that you read into it, the more that you look at the life of Elizabeth, you think, the calling of Elizabeth is the calling on all Christian mothers. Yes. Because we are living in a time now where we as parents that have been gifted these kids, to raise them so that they can also go out there and prepare for the second coming of our Savior. And so I love the characteristics of Elizabeth. She's she's humble. And she shows that when, her cousin Mary, who's much younger than her, comes to her when she's carrying the Messiah.
Yes.
And Elizabeth showed no sign of being insecure or threatened or jealous or envious of Mary.
Yes.
She fully embraced it and lifted Mary up. And I think as a woman, that shows true beauty.
Right.
To be able to lift, each other up. And
inspiring, a great role model.
She's amazing.
Yes, agreed.
I think for me, it would have to be Hagar, which is a unique one in a little bit, because parenting isn't easy.
No.
There are times where I have gone into my closet and cried and prayed and like, God, God. And I could echo what Hagar said in Genesis. When she's out in the desert, she's pregnant with Ishmael, and she has a God encounter. And she says, "You are the God who sees me." And there have been times where I have said, "God, do you see me?" And he has answered in miraculous ways, and to acknowledge that he does see us. So regardless of where we're at in our life, God is a God who sees us, who's there with us, who carries us. Later in her story, she says, "You're a God who hears me." So he hears our cries, he hears our frustration.
That's beautiful.
And
How good is that?
And
Yes.
when we see that and we do that, and when we represent that to our children, we're representing his character. And I would agree with you, Ivana, that nothing like parenting teaches you that unconditional love. Your kids may make mistakes. It doesn't affect how you love them at all.
No.
And God has that same kind of a love for each one of us.
And I like what you said there, in that he sees and hears us even in our lowest points.
Yeah.
She's not in a mountaintop experience
Yeah,
when that
that's right.
happens.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
that's so needed.
And I think that as mothers and as parents, that crying out to God, having that ability
Yeah,
to
definitely.
reach out to him and to pray to him. And as we end here, we're going to get to hear some of our moms singing a beautiful song about a secret weapon that we as parents have, and that is being able to communicate with God and pray with him. And so
Amen.
we encourage you to enjoy listening to this. Someone's praying for you.
That's awesome.
Someone is praying for you. Someone is praying for you. So when it seems you're all alone and your heart will break in two, remember someone is praying for you. Have the crowds around you gathered in the midst of the storm. Is your ship tossed and battered? Are you weary and worn? Don't lose hope. Someone's praying for you this very day. And peace be still is already on the way. Someone
beautiful. Just thank you for joining us today. We just hope that you've come away and you're able to take something that we've, been able to show you, even with just the videos that you've been watching of, just us being mothers. And I just ask that you join me as I pray us out. Father God, I just thank you, Lord. I thank you for the beautiful mothers, the beautiful mentors, and just the beautiful figures that we have in our lives, Lord. But most of all, Lord, we thank you for being that person who walks beside us, who walks with us, who goes before us and prepares our way, Lord. There are times, Lord, where we're put in situations where we're not ready for, Lord. But just because we're not ready, Lord, I just want to thank you for preparing us, Lord. It's times when we come together, just like we have today, Lord, that we get equipped. And Lord, I thank you for being that person that we can draw from. Lord, I just pray for all the mothers out there. I just pray for each of the households, Lord, and I just pray for the children that we're raising, Lord. May we be the lamps in the communities, Lord, because it takes a village to raise a child, Lord. So I just pray for all the mothers out there, all the fathers out there, or just anyone that's raising a child, Lord. Thank you for the beautiful ladies that I have up here with me today. In your precious name, Lord, we pray, amen. Amen. Thank you. Have a blessed weekend.